My last video on the Interborough Express sparked the kind of traction I've come to expect, but not the kind of clarity I'd hoped for. A lot of people watched, a lot of people commented, but not everyone heard the full message. So I'm making this video not as a rebuttal, but as a continuation, a deeper dive, a stronger debate. MTA claims the IBX is efficient and cost-effective, but let's be honest. What they're really saying is, we're compromising. They're using extending freight infrastructure not because it's ideal, but because it's already there. Tight clearances, shared tracks, limited flexibility. That's not visionary planning. That's squeezing a new system into an old skeleton. Light rail wasn't chosen because it's the best for New York. It was chosen because it's the easiest to wedge into a corridor designed for freight. It's not about what riders need. It's about what planners can get away with. Faster implementation sounds great, until you realize what's being lost. No underground integration, no subway-grade service, no preservation of the vibe New Yorkers know. It's transit without texture. The New York City subway isn't just how we move, it's how we live. It's the screech of the rails, the rush of the platform, the poetry of strangers in motion. Now, the MTA wants to replace that rhythm with something quieter, cleaner, and emptier. MTA claims that the IBX will only take 30 minutes to travel all the way from Sunset Park to Jackson Heights. But due to trams having slower systems, this is something that I seriously question. There's hidden flaws and operational risks due to this not being a subway. There is a shared track vulnerability. Freight trains do not follow passenger schedules. One stalled car could shut down the entire corridor. The MTA's documents frame light rail as the most cost-effective and constructible option. But what if those metrics are masking a deeper bias? What if this isn't just about engineering, but rather ideology? Bias doesn't always wear a name tag. It shows up in planning documents, in renderings, in the quiet shift from subway expansion to surface level compromise. And by the time the public sees the consequences, it's already too late. If we don't speak up now, we risk waking up in a city that moves, but no longer moves like New York. The MTA's decision to let freight trains share tracks with the Interborough Express isn't just a technical oversight. It's a betrayal of what this project could be. You can't just build a 21st century transit line on 19th century logistics. The freight trains is the anchor holding IBX back. Freight trains are slow, unpredictable, and legally prioritized. That means delays, disruptions, and zero control for IBX riders. Shared tracks equal shared failure. One stalled boxcar in East New York could paralyze service across two boroughs. This isn't a subway, it's a compromise, and compromises don't move cities forward. If MTA wants IBX to be a true subway experience, it must stop sharing, period. Now, what we have to do is elevate freight, literally. Reimagine the BQX as a freight-only elevated corridor. Let goods move above while people move below. This isn't fantasy, it's engineering. Cities around the world separate freight and passenger rail. Why not New York? The IBX needs 4-track dedicated track. One of the most efficient ways we can give the IBX the subway DNA. I'd say we need new rolling stock like the R268s or the upcoming R211Ts. No freight interference at all. Tight clearances mean limited space for emergency access, track maintenance, or future expansion. You can't build a resilient transit line next to a moving liability. Freight trains aren't just the neighbors, they're disruptors. If the MTA is serious about making the IBX a true subway grade experience, freight needs to go. not just moved over, but moved out. Reimagine the BQX as the new freight viaduct. Let the IBX breathe. We need full reliability, no shared emergencies, and no scheduling conflicts. We need space to expand, electrify, and evolve into a true subway extension. Right now, IBX is being built around freight. That's not planning, it's a compromise. And a compromise is how you lose the soul of New York transit. Freight trains move cargo, subways move people. And if we keep mixing the two, we're not building a subway, we're building a setback. Let IBX evolve into the next generation of subway. One that connects Brooklyn and Queens with the dignity and reliability they've always deserved. The MTA says the IBX will run on 2 new passenger tracks, with freight trains operating on their own dedicated tracks. It sounds clean, but it's not, because those freight tracks aren't separate. They're adjacent, and that proximity is the problem. Light rail isn't just a different mode, it's a different mood. It lacks the grit, the density, the underground heartbeat of the subway. It's not native to New York City. And when decisions favor imported models over local legacy, we risk losing the soul of our system. Transit planning shouldn't be a proxy war for regional preferences. It should reflect the lived experience of New Yorkers, their commutes, their culture, their city. If the subway is our inheritance, then we deserve a voice in its evolution. This isn't Buffalo or New Jersey. This is New York, and our subway deserves more than compromise. It deserves commitment. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is the fact that the IBX bear a striking resemblance to the rolling stock in New Jersey and Buffalo. Coincidence? Maybe, but it's a strange one. When you start seeing Buffalo-style planning and Jersey-style trains in a system that's supposed to reflect New York City's identity, you have to ask, whose vision is this? It's almost as if the MTA is stitching together a patchwork of regional transit ideas. Buffalo's light rail philosophy and Jersey's rolling stock aesthetic, but forgetting the one place that matters most, New York City. The IBX isn't just a transit line. It's a chance to rewrite the story of outer borough mobility. But if we let freight dictate the terms, we're not building a subway, we're building a setback. When I mentioned Buffalo and New Jersey, it wasn't about geography. It was about design logic. These cities operate on different densities, different transit priorities, and different visual languages. And that matters when you're designing for New York. They're different cities and a different DNA. Transit isn't copy-paste. This isn't about dissing other cities. It's about defending ours. New York deserves transit that feels like New York. The IBX isn't designed to feel like part of the subway. It's designed to sit beside it. It's no direct fare integration with subway, at least not guaranteed. No underground transfers or shared platforms, or omni-compatibility, which doesn't equal system unity. Riders may still need to exit one system to enter another. If it doesn't connect like the subway, transfer like the subway, or move like the subway, then it's not the subway. We're spending billions to build something new, but not something better. IBX could have been a subway extension with full integration. It has no express service or future proofing for capacity growth. Light rail lacks the iconic elements like tile mosaics, underground acoustics, and platform culture. Riders won't feel the same sense of place or beginning. Transit becomes transactional, not experimental. We're not just losing a train, we're losing a feeling. The MTA projects 115,000 daily riders. But if that service is unreliable, disconnected, or culturally alien, it won't hit that. Riders may avoid the IBX if it doesn't feel like part of the system. and freight delays could erode trust. Decisions feel top down, but not grassroots. Cultural and historical context of neighborhoods are being ignored. Transit should reflect the people it serves, not just the planners who design it. This is not the New York we ordered. A lot of people are throwing around ideas like automated subway systems, light rail orders, and futuristic transit redesign. And sure, they sound promising, but promising doesn't mean permanent, and permanent doesn't mean authentic. You have to consider the culture. The MTA subway isn't just the infrastructure, it's aesthetic. It's the grit, the graffiti, the geometry of chaos that makes New York feel like New York. You don't replace that with sterile renderings and imported ideologies. New York doesn't need to abandon the way we move just to chase someone else's vision of the future. We don't need Buffalo-style light rail. We don't need Jersey-style rolling stock. We need New York-style transit, dense, underground, and unapologetically ours. One of the major politicians funding the IBX proposal is the Governor Hochul. Governor Hochul wasn't raised in the 5 boroughs. She's from Buffalo. And ever since she stepped into power, the MTA has been shifting. Suddenly, light rail is the answer. Suddenly, the IBX is a new system. Suddenly, the subway vibe is being rewritten. I'm not saying it's intentional. I'm saying it's a pattern. A Buffalo-raised governor pushing Buffalo-style transit that runs in a completely different rhythm. That's not progress, that's projection. And that's not the first time we've seen this. Robert Moses wasn't raised in New York City either. He promised equity, then built highways that tore through neighborhoods. Now, Hochul and Moses are worlds apart politically, but they share one thing, a willingness to reshape New York in their own image. That's how it starts. One project, one quarter, one compromise, and suddenly the subway isn't the subway anymore. It's a simulation. And the future politicians, planners, and consultants start following what seems correct instead of what feels like New York. Now, I've avoided politics for a reason. It's messy and it's sensitive. But when politics start rewriting the DNA of our transit system, I have to speak up. Because this isn't just about trains, it's about identity. New York deserves transit that reflects its people, its pace, and its pulse. Not someone else's blueprint, not someone else's bias, and definitely not someone else's aesthetic. This isn't Buffalo or New Jersey. This is New York, and we don't compromise our culture for convenience. New York City has the most iconic, most complex, and the most heavily used subway system in the United States. It's not just popular, it's foundational. For over a century, it's handled the chaos, the density, and the diversity of 8 million people moving through 5 boroughs every single day. So why are we borrowing techniques from cities with a fraction of our population? Why are we importing light rail models from Buffalo, Jersey, or Portland? Places that don't even come close to New York's scale, speed, or population. This isn't just a mismatch, it's a miscalculation. New York doesn't need to start over. It needs to build on what already works. The subway system we have isn't broken. It's being sidelined by planners chasing novelty instead of honoring legacy. We've proven how we can move millions underground. We've built a transit culture that's raw, resilient, and uniquely ours. So why dilute it now? Why gamble on a new system that's never been stress tested at New York scale? Transit isn't one size fits all, and New York isn't just any city. It's the city, and our subways isn't just a system, it's a standard. The MTA isn't designing the Interborough Express around what New York needs. They're designing it around what barely fits. Tight clearances, shared tracks with freight, limited flexibility. This isn't visionary planning, it's spatial compromise. The existing freight corridor has narrow tunnels, tight curves, and limited vertical clearance. Instead of re-engineering the space for subway-grade infrastructure, the IBX is choosing light rail simply because it squeezes in. Freight trains still run through the corridor around industrial logistics, not rider needs. This isn't a subway built for New Yorkers. It's a workaround built for freight. The operational consequences is no express tracks, no bypass tracks, no room for future expansion, vulnerable to delays from freight movement or breakdowns. In one stalled boxcar in East New York and the whole line freezes. That's not resilience, that's fragility. New York subway was built to move millions, fast, underground, and interrupted. The IBX as planned is being shaped by what's already there, and not by what the city actually needs. And that's how you lose the vibe. That's how you lose the legacy. You don't build the future by squeezing it into the past. You build it by reshaping it. If there are professors who study transit statistics for 50 years that disagree with the idea of light rail, this seriously needs to be reconsidered. There has to be a step up, or else New York City will start shifting into a city we no longer recognize. MTA is assuming that this is an end of a transit desert, but without the subway, it's a start of 1,000 flaws.